Hi. So on TikTok, I am known for being the girl who turns makeup into paint. And the question I always get is, does this makeup paint actually work well, or are you just faking it for views? So instead of making another video telling you guys that it does work, I decided to do a giant painting with all my makeup paint. I have a couple different palettes here. This one is the Bloodlust palette, I believe. It's really pretty. It has lots of great shades. Then we have this Conspiracy palette. I have used this thing to death. It is my first palette I ever turned into watercolor paint, and I love it. And then lastly, I have this Blood Sugar palette. I haven't finished turning this one into paint, but I will soon, hopefully. But it still has some really pretty red shades, so I want to use it. I decided I wanted to give myself a couple rules for this challenge, and the rules are that I can only use the paint that I made from these palettes, and I have to use at least 5 colors from each palette. I'm really excited to do this, so let's see how it turns out. So my initial idea for this painting was to make kind of a beauty influencer type girl, a YouTuber if you will. And I had this vision of giving her bright green eyeshadow and really big like Bratz doll looking lips because I love the way that Bratz dolls look. I think I subconsciously based her off of a TikToker I really like who goes by Michaela. She has like this really long dark hair and she wears a lot of green and she has these big lips, and I just think she's absolutely beautiful. Once I was really happy with my sketch and it looked like the beauty influencer I had in my head, I decided to move on to painting. I'm starting off by using this purple shade from the Bloodlust palette because it's so pigmented and it makes the perfect background color. One thing I really like about these makeup paints is how pigmented they are, because sometimes when you buy like cheaper watercolors, they get really chalky and they don't have a lot of pigment to them, so you end up having to build them up a lot. While with these paints, I find you only need 1 or 2 layers to get the color you really desire. I started making eyeshadow into watercolor paint about 2 years ago, and I had no idea if it was gonna work. I picked up paint making as a hobby, and I ended up having a bunch of eyeshadow I didn't want to use anymore because I didn't like the creators of the eyeshadow. And I had this thought that in paint making, all you need is a pigment and a binder. And eyeshadow is essentially a pressed pigment, so if I can mix that with my watercolor binder, I could make watercolor paint. I tested it out and it ended up working really well, and the paints were so pigmented and so easy to use, I decided to document me making paint out of eyeshadow on TikTok. And to my surprise, people loved the video and thought it was such an amazing idea. I'm probably not the first person that has ever thought of this, but I was really happy because I inspired a lot of people to recycle old eyeshadow that they would have thrown away and it would have gone to a landfill into paint that they can use to make really pretty art. I'm really big on recycling and reusing where I can, and if I can save any amount of plastic and pigment from going to the landfill, I am happy to do so. And I was also happy to get some more paint that I could use because I started paint making right when the pandemic started and I was in art college. And I was burning through my art supplies and I really didn't want to leave the house to buy more of them, so it was a good way for me to get more paint for cheap and not have to risk getting a virus. I painted a lot of my final semester paintings with makeup paint and my teachers had no idea. They wanted us to buy this really expensive art kit with like proper watercolors that were really expensive, and they wanted us to go all the way to an art store that was like an hour and a half away from me. So I just never bought the kit and ended up using my own watercolors, and they said it looked really good. So, you know, I saved money and tricked my professors. Eventually, though, when my TikToks started to get really popular and people started to send me so much makeup to make and paint, I couldn't justify keeping all the makeup paint I made because I would never be able to use that much watercolor paint. So I started either sending it back to the person that sent me the makeup, or I would give it away to some artist friends that I had. At this point, I think I've probably turned at least 30 separate palettes into watercolor paint, which is a little crazy. And it's a little crazy that I received donations of makeup from people all around the world that want to recycle their old products. I'm really happy I found out about this little hack, and I've inspired so many people to get into paint making. If you guys are interested in finding out how to make makeup paint, I have a full video that I'll link at the end of this video. But now our makeup lady is complete. I'm really happy with how she turned out. I love her eyeshadow look, like the greens just look so pretty. I wish I could have made her hair just a little bit darker, but black eyeshadows tend not to turn into paint too well because they often contain charcoal in them, so I'm happy with her lighter purple hair. I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any more suggestions for videos you want me to do on this channel, comment down below.